What's up, guys? Oh my god. I kid you not. This is the 5th time I start this video. First time, it's too dark. Second time, the microphone was still connected from when I was doing my gameplay. And I forgot to disconnect it. No audio. I started again. I'm talking for like 20 minutes. And I'm not recording. So I started again. And I'm talking. Good thing I just talked for like 5 minutes maybe. And I'm like, oh my god, I forgot to disconnect the mic again. So this is my 5th attempt. Extremely redundant for me now. I know it's not for you guys, but for me it's just, oh my god. I'll try to make it fresh for me somehow. I've been wanting to start this little series for a while now where I just talk about something that's not exactly, doesn't have to be video game related. It's not going to be a usual thing, but it is going to be every now and then I'll put something out. I'm going to call it GamerMD83 Geek Out, and I just talk about a topic that I love that doesn't have to be video game related. So this one is going to be about what I thought about Dark Knight Rises, because a lot of you guys have been asking me, and I haven't done a video or talked about it because I hadn't seen it. I just recently saw it on Saturday with my older brother and his wife. So I'm ready. Let's do it. For the 5th time, I've got my superhero, I love superheroes shirt. Batman's right there. Yeah. Now, just to get this out of the way, I know a lot of you are going to ask me. I absolutely love Superman. For some people it's Batman, for me it's Superman. So I'm crazy about the Man of Steel. And the cool thing is that the producer is Christopher Nolan, and I think there's a plan going on here. And I'll explain that later. Now, before I start talking about the movie, I have to say that this is going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen the film, don't watch this. It's too good of a film for me to be spoiling it for you. So go watch it first and then watch this. I thought it was going to end differently. So it caught me a little bit, not off guard, but it wasn't how I had expected it to end. Nolan was saying for a long time now that nobody would be able to continue his Batman. I was like, I bet he's going to kill Batman. He's gonna kill Batman. Like, Bane's gonna break Batman's back at the end, and Batman's gonna die. Now, for those of you that are Batman fans and know quite a bit about Batman, we all went in there knowing that Bane was most likely, like maybe 99% sure that Bane was gonna break Batman's back. The thing with Nolan that we have to go into the movies, his Batman movies, thinking is that he's not going to keep the traditional storylines or traditional backstories for most likely for the villains. He's not going to keep them. He's most likely going to change them to be a little bit more believable. Because that's one thing that I really like about the Nolan and Nolan's interpretation of Batman is that he changes these things to be a little more believable, so that it's like, okay, this could happen. And it's not so, oh, this is a superhero movie. You know, it's like the animated series Batman, you know? It's Batman, this Cape Crusader. It's more of like, Batman is this human being. It's almost like, it's not a superhero movie. It's a story about Batman, and not so much about superheroes, you know? It's very serious, it's very... in many cases, it's very dark, and I think Nolan has been the best at capturing that essence of Batman, that dark, sad, miserable feeling of Batman, you know? Because he is pretty miserable. He's not happy. He fights crime and all that, but he was broken, and I really liked that. I think that was an awesome part in the movie when Bane says, I'm gonna break you, or something like that. Like, he says something about breaking him, and not only did it mean that he was gonna break him, you know, his soul emotionally, but he actually broke him, you know? I don't think anybody has ever come close to, at least the films, to capturing that side to Batman, that essence of Batman, which is extremely important because it's what makes Batman Batman. so different from a lot of other superheroes, you know? It's just that darkness inside him. Even though he is a superhero, he's a good guy, he's full of a lot of anger inside. Um, so I think Nolan has captured that perfectly in his movies, making Batman seem not superhero-ish, but more like a very human, very much relatable with, and like I said, not so superhuman, like not so powerful, and I love that about his movies. So even though I knew going into the movie that, you know, Bane was most likely going to break Batman's back, and that's considered to be this huge spoiler, you know, especially for people that don't know that much about Batman and didn't know that that's what happens. So was that whole aspect of Bane breaking Batman's back very a good choice for Nolan to do, because it was very predictable, because we kind of knew going in? I think it was. I think it was a great choice that he included it, just because even though we kind of knew already that that was going to happen, we didn't know how it was going to happen. We didn't know what was going to happen afterwards, when it was going to happen, nothing. So we really didn't know what to expect. Even though we kind of knew what was going to happen, we didn't know how it was going to happen. So I wasn't in any way like, oh gosh, you know, I knew he was going to do that. No, I was like, that was cool. And I loved how he did it, because he didn't make it overly dramatic, which is what I loved. Because it's like, oh my god, Bane breaks Batman's back. You know, I thought it was like, oh my god. But it was just like, that was it. All he had to do was lift him up like this, and I knew that was it. I was like, oh my god, he's going to break his back. That was probably the most dramatic moment. That part where he lifts him up. Especially for a Batman fan, because you're just like, this is it. But I love how it wasn't overdone and like focused so much on that. Because that was a huge thing for the storyline, but it wasn't like the main thing. I think the best scene that kind of best interprets the whole movie was when Bruce Wayne tries to get out of the pit. The second time he tries to get out of the pit, he jumps, he falls, and he remembers what his dad told him when he says, "Why do we fall?" And then he wakes up. I think that scene absolutely explains the whole movie. He leaves it unanswered, right? You know what the answer is, but he leaves it so that we could answer it, so that we could say, to get back up. It really encompassed the whole movie, like what it was all about. It was about falling down and getting back up. And Bruce wasn't doing that in the beginning. I mean, being gone for 8 years, Batman, it was like, you fall to get back up, not to like freaking stay there. And that's what Bruce was doing. So I think that's why Batman really could not stand a chance with Bane in the first fight, because he wasn't himself. He was still very not really doing it for the right reasons, and frustrated and angry, and like really letting that taking over. So he wasn't fighting like he usually fights, and Bane just totally took over him. So and then at the end, when he fights Bane again, that's where Batman is Batman. You know, that's where he fights, how he usually fights, and more up here than all muscle. You know, he went for the jugular for the mask, and that's what started to make Bane go start fighting really uncoordinated and stuff like that. The one thing that I went into the movie kind of critical about was Catwoman. Now, I'm not a huge Catwoman fan. I don't really like Catwoman. I've never liked Catwoman. I don't know. She just wasn't my cup of tea. And then I heard Anne Hathaway was going to be Catwoman, and I was like, what? As much as I know about Anne Hathaway, I don't know that much. I've seen her in a few films. But what I had seen, I was like, she can't play Catwoman. So I went in thinking that. And the first few things I saw the first few scenes I saw with Catwoman, I was like, very early on, especially when she's kind of like playing the part of the little maid, and she's all like has this like different voice, and I was like, oh god. But then when she goes back to her Selena Kyle voice with Bruce Wayne, where she goes whoops or something like that. I was like, oh, you know, I started to see her. She started to almost meld into the Selena Kyle character with that, and I was like, So I started to give her a chance, and the more I saw, the scene that really did it for me, that sold Catwoman for me, as you know, Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, was where she's giving the fingerprints to that one guy, Bruce Wayne's fingerprints, and then all those cops come in, and she's just sitting there, she's pretending to be this like innocent civilian, and she's like, ah! And she's like freaking out, and she's like, ah! And that part sold it for me. I was like, that was brilliant. And then she just walks out like nothing. That was so good. I was like, that she's good. She's doing good. I think she did a great job at interpreting Catwoman, because she got a lot of Catwoman's or Selena Kyle's personality traits down, especially that duality to her. The way that Selena Kyle or Catwoman could change in a second. She uses her seduction and her mind to trick people. One thing that I really, really loved about Nolan's interpretation of Catwoman, because I was wondering about this going into the film, I was like, I wonder if Nolan is going to capture that neutrality of Catwoman. Because Catwoman has never been categorized either as a villain or as a friend to Batman, because she's only in it for herself, whatever benefits her. So whatever benefits her, if it benefits her to team up with Two-Face, she'll team up with Two-Face. If it benefits her to team up with Batman, she'll team up with Batman. And I love that he made her very believable. He didn't make her, it wasn't cheesy like, oh, she's Catwoman and she wears these little cat ears, you know? Because that would not have fit in his interpretation of Batman. It would have been like two caped crusaders, Batman and Catwoman, and they're both dressed as a cat and another one's as a bat. Especially when it comes to the Nolan films, because she was just wearing black. She was never called Catwoman. She was called a cat burglar because that's what she was. But the little goggles that she'd wear, those little thingies, when she put them up, they created cat ears. And I was like, oh my god, that is brilliant. That was so awesome. So it wasn't like she was wearing cat ears. It's just that these would look like cat ears. Because, you know, just putting them up. It was like an accident, but it fit, you know, like it made her Catwoman. And I thought that was so brilliant. So I love that. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, no freaking way, man. So cool.